What do you think of when you first hear the word anxiety? Many people will first think of someone who is extremely nervous or fearful and maybe list some of the physical symptoms they often think of, such as racing thoughts, dizziness, shortness of breath, heart pounding, butterflies in your stomach, sweating, and shaking. These are all physiological symptoms of stress, and while they may also be accurate for anxiety, what is really the difference between just being stressed and experiencing anxiety? Stress occurs when you perceive a stressor and then experience both an emotional and physiological response that prepares you to deal with the experience. So imagine you're taking your driver's test for the first time, as many adolescents do. You're nervous you might fail, and so you may be experiencing many of those symptoms listed before while you're waiting to get into the car. Since you're stressed, you may be more vigilant and motivated to perform well. But the key thing is that once you finish and you've passed the test, the uncomfortable experience and the threat of failure is gone, so the stress goes away. While stress is temporary and dependent on a stressor, anxiety is an anticipation of a future threat, whether that be real or imagined. And generally, the potential future threat is viewed in a way that is out of proportion to the actual threat it poses. According to the DSM-5, anxiety disorders differ from developmentally normative fear or anxiety by being excessive or persisting beyond developmentally appropriate periods. Symptoms must also have been present for at least 6 months, cause impairment or significant distress, and not be attributable to any other disorder or medication. Drawing on developmental theory, several authors have proposed age-related developmental changes in the expression of anxiety throughout childhood and adolescence. In each age period, it is argued that the expression of anxiety will reflect the normative developmental period that the individual is currently in. So now let's look at how some of the more common anxiety disorders develop throughout adolescence. There are many different subtypes of anxiety disorders, but we are going to focus on 3, and those are generalized anxiety disorder, separation anxiety, and social anxiety disorder. The first anxiety disorder we are going to look at is generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD. Generalized anxiety disorder is characterized by excessive anxiety or worry occurring more days than not and about a number of events or different activities. Other symptoms include restlessness, easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating, irritability, muscle tension, or sleep disturbance. Looking at the proposed developmental trajectory of GAD, symptoms first decline in early adolescence, followed by a sharp increase in symptoms from middle adolescence onwards. The initial decrease could be interpreted as a result of the often stressful transition from childhood into early adolescence, including changing schools. Then anxiety decreases a bit as the transition starts to become less new. The subsequent increase in mid to late adolescence could be related to normative developmental changes such as cognitive maturation. The adolescent is experiencing many developmental changes and must learn how to adapt to them. Next, we are going to look at separation anxiety disorder, also known as SEP-AD. Separation anxiety disorder involves inappropriate and excessive fear or anxiety concerning separation from those to whom the individual is attached. Examples of some of the possible behaviors associated with this include excessive worry about losing major attachment figures or that harm will come to them, or refusal to go out from the home to school or work for fear of separation. In child and adolescents, this separation anxiety disorder can be diagnosed if these behaviors have lasted at least 4 weeks compared to the typical 6-month time frame for adults. Again, looking at the developmental trajectory, separation anxiety was shown to display a nonlinear decline over time. This decrease could reflect improved adaptation to school environment, successful separation from the parents over time, and represent the individuation process that adolescents tend to go through. Lastly, we are going to look at social anxiety disorder. This involves anxiety about social situations in which the individual is exposed to possible scrutiny or judgment by others. The individual might fear that they will embarrass themselves or be rejected, and so social situations provoke this extreme anxiety and may even be avoided. A key component is that the anxiety is out of proportion to the actual threat posed by the social situation. Past research has demonstrated that the developmental trajectory of social anxiety disorder remains fairly stable across time. This is somewhat counterintuitive since early adolescents put such a high value on peer relationships and popularity. Thus, you might think that social anxiety disorder would peak more in early adolescence due to increased fear of negative social evaluation. In fact, we do see this effect if we split the sample into males and females, where females exhibit the expected peak of social anxiety during early adolescence, but males do not. We've now learned about the difference between stress and anxiety and about the developmental trajectories of 3 different anxiety disorders. Thanks for watching.